Max Fried Egg and Hash Browns was quietly developed as one of the best pitchers in the game. Haters will point to his low strikeout rates and call him overrated. Lovers will point to his pinpoint control and ability to limit the long ball. And I say he's somewhere in between. This is Bravescast. So today we are talking about Max Fried, who indisputably, it you can't dispute the fact that he is now the ace of the Brave staff. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, as much as we love Spencer Strider, you can't have, back to back Cy Young type seasons. Basically carried the Braves in 2020, carried the Braves in 2021. Uh, Crazy game six pitching performance in 2021. And then he just came back and was even better. Uh, yeah, I don't think you have much of an argument to say if you're not a Max Fried fan to say that he's a bad pitcher. He's one of the best pitchers in the game.
And he's done it for a while now. That's something, especially with pitchers, people like to point to. Sample size. We've talked about flash in the pan. A lot of people. Spencer Strider's the exception. But we're talking about with Kyle Wright, where it's like he just has 1 year now where he proved himself, and it could still very easily be a fluke. But really with Max Fried, I mean, you can point to his 2019, and on the surface, his stats weren't that great. I would still argue he was a key component of our staff that year. You also have to understand that the offensive environment was absolutely ludicrous. And, really, I've been watching him since 2018. His curveball. So one thing if you listen to enough episodes of this podcast as we release them, I love to compare hitter swings to just, random occurrences. And, I love analogizing them with different phenomenons and whatnot. And I like collecting pitches. I like naming favorite pitches. And my favorite curveball for so long was Max Fried's. The thing looked like a freaking lollipop coming out of his hand. Last year, he sort of changed his approach as a pitcher, I would say. He relied on the curveball a lot less. Started relying more on his slider and his sinker, kind of two-seamer. And it obviously worked for him. He's one of those pitchers, and I feel like we say this with every pitcher, and we're going to say it with every Braves player, who, is able to adapt to, not only the game around him, but to also his own abilities. Last year, just to spit off some stats, I mean, he second in Cy Young voting, right behind Alcantara, which very much he deserved yeah. I mean, dude, 228 innings and like sub 2.5 ERA. But Fried, 2.48, ERA plus a 164. Year before, similar-ish story, ERA plus of 143. 2020, I know we don't like to count that season, especially if your name is Cole and you run a channel called No More Fielders. But hey, he still had an ERA plus of 208. So he's been doing this for a while now. I know a lot of people will call him overrated. I know his strikeout rates aren't great. If Kyle Wright is striking out batters at a higher rate than you, then obviously you're going to have your doubters. But he's one of those guys that he doesn't rely on the strikeout. He limits the long ball by a lot. His homer per nine last year was 0.6, which is approaching Greg Maddux territory.
And if anything, that seems high for him.
Yeah. It was 0.8 in 2021 and 0.3 in 2020. Even in the homer happy 2019 season, where literally the all-time home run record for a season was broken, by the entire league, it was only 1.1. I mean, this is a guy that, won't. I know I said this with Spencer Strider, and I might be sounding like a broken record here, but he won't beat himself. He's not going to just give the game up to you. You're going to have to take it from him. So some backstory. he and the Braves have had a bit of a rocky relationship. It hasn't really been publicized, but I think 2 years in a row they've had to go to arbitration. For those of you who are unaware, the way that the current contract system works in MLB is that once you're called up, this is a very simplified version of it, by the way. You basically your service time starts. Your first 3 years of service time, you basically make league minimum salary with some increases depending on performance and awards, and then you enter arbitration, where basically the player and their agent gives a number, the team gives a number. If they can agree on it, cool, contract signed, no issue. If they can't, they have to go to arbitration. We're an independent party, which, by the way, I would love to have that job. Being an independent arbiter,
Although at the same time, I don't know if I would like to go to an arbitration where my company tells me everything I do poorly and why I don't deserve, X amount of money.
Oh no, I'm talking about the arbiter. I'm talking about the independent arbiter.
Oh, you would love to be the arbiter?
Yeah. I would just love to hear.
If I was the arbiter, I'd just be picking out hats.
I would just love to be a fly on the wall for those conversations, because I have no idea what they like. As much as we speculate on them, we don't exactly know what stats are being referenced. I just imagine Max Fried's agent. So basically, to speed up the story, last 2 years they've had to go to arbitration. They've had to have the independent arbiter. They haven't been able to agree on a salary, which his rookie contract is coming up. I think at the end of 2024. He has 2 more years left, I believe.
Yeah, it's this year and then 2024.
But I was going to say, I could just imagine his agent making a PowerPoint, just having all his stats on the screen. You have the little Microsoft animations, oh, he had a 2.48 ERA last year. Really, you're going to only pay him $12 million? Come on, we want $12.5 million. Which that is a big difference, by the way. I'm not trying to diminish. $500,000 is still a lot, especially if you're a pitcher who, your health is always going to be up in the air. So that's definitely going to be a story to watch throughout the year. A couple years,
it's
actually.
It's interesting that you bring up arbitration, because that's actually something I was thinking of as well. Before the case, he ended up losing in arbitration this year. That might sound a bit surprising until you look at the numbers. MLB trade rumors only projected him to get $12 million. I think he got 12.5, and that was him losing. But just in general, if you were trying to find a good player, similar player comp for Max Fried in this current arbitration environment, so it goes 25, 50, 75%, and those last 3 years expected salary, and then the team gets a 25% discount, or 75% discount, and then 50 and then 25. Max Fried has no player comp. No other player in the league within the past 10 years has done what he's done to start a career. To the longevity, the innings, Fried has been an innings eater. Even in the 2019 season Cole was talking about, he underperformed his FIP. He should have been starting in that division series, and that was his worst year. So since 2019, he carried the team on his back in 2020, 2021. 2022. He's just got no player comp. You have another guy like Carlos Rodon, who just signed a massive deal with the Yankees. He got non-tendered. You have a guy like Kevin Gossman, old former Brave, who got a good contract with the Blue Jays. He also got waived by the Braves. There's not a player who has the comparisons that an arbitrator can go back and say, oh, Max Fried, he had a down season number 2. He was injured in season number 3. And so he had a good season number 4. But because of the past, the Braves should get this discount on Fried. Fried's just been so good for so long that he doesn't have a good arbitration comp. And so next year he will probably get $25 million in arbitration, which is really, really high. It's definitely a story to watch. If the Braves... There were rumors that, bad rumors that maybe the Braves could trade Fried. They can't trade Fried. He's too good. He means too much for the starting rotation. But in terms of arbitration, he's going to make a lot of money, deservedly. And he's going to be a really hard player to project on the arbitration basis. like I said earlier, like he ended up getting more than projected in arbitration, and he lost his case. So Fried's just an outstanding pitcher. Arbitration is a weird process; it's kind of complicated, but if you lose your arbitration case and you still make more than projected, you've got a phenomenal repertoire.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to look in too much into arbitration. A lot of people are like, oh, he's gonna pitch badly this year because he's making less than he thought he would. That's not the
No.
case. So these guys are computers,
Competitors.
competitors. There we go. It's been a long day. We've been
Long
recording
day.
um, a lot. Anyway, competitors. These guys are competitors. But it is interesting to see, especially when he does eventually reach free agency. I doubt. I think you agree with me. I doubt that the Braves are going to re-sign him. He'll be kind of Freddie Freeman 3.0, just because he did pitch Game 6 of the World Series. I mean, he is. I would like to think in the hearts and minds of a lot of Braves fans here, and it will be hard. I mean, personally, if I had to, be forced to marry anyone on this planet, I would choose Max Fried. Honestly, like he is like I said, one of my favorite pitchers. That curveball used to keep me up at night. I just don't see us re-signing him once his contract is up. But in terms of 2023, I think it's going to be kind of same story. I think he's not going to be as good as he was in 2022. It's also, we didn't really talk about this with the other pitchers, but seeing what they do with the baseballs this year, I hate that we're having these conversations. That's why we avoided them, because I just don't like talking about like, oh, what's the baseball going to be like this year? But it is going to be interesting to see. I definitely think Max Fried is one of those guys that doesn't make much of a difference just because he was so good at limiting the long ball anyway. Like we said, 2019, his FIP was still like, it was still higher than it normally is, but it wasn't like ludicrous or anything. And he still underperformed it to his ERA. But I do think he's going to be, Cy Young contender. I know a lot of people will point to his strikeout rates and call him overrated. I call those people fools. He's one of those guys to me that is the exception. He is a crafty lefty at the end of the day. He's able to pitch to both sides. He has a full enough arsenal, pretty much plenty of like tricks up his sleeves. And I'm just looking at his baseball reference projections, and honestly, I agree with them. Sounds weird, but like 2.93 ERA, 169 innings, pretty much. Yeah, I think that's kind of the guy. That's going to be the guy that we get.
Yeah, I would actually be more optimistic with the projections. I think Fried's a weird player because he is such a throwback. He could strike out batters if he wanted to. Like, I know some old schoolers say that about pitchers, like, oh, Greg Maddux could have struck out every batter he wanted to, but he didn't want to. We've watched Max Fried tone down the velocity.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
curveball's a little different now than it used to be. His strikeout rate has gone down pretty significantly since he's come up in the big leagues, and the result is he's a better pitcher. Like his results, his outcomes are better now than they used to be. And we've fallen over Spencer Strider in that 38.5% K rate. But Fried has intentionally stopped striking out batters. I think he really does. He has found the key to pitching to contact. And normally with pitchers, I would not advise pitching to contact because that means you're going to run into barrels. Max Fried doesn't run into barrels. He allows, like Cole said earlier, 0.6 homers per nine.
Well,
and I think with projections, they're gonna err on the side of caution.
Yeah, I mean, he has such like a deep arsenal of pitches. Like he has so many tools. He's basically got like a Swiss Army knife for an arm, where he has so many different looks. It's almost kind of like the reverse of Spencer Strider, where Spencer Strider, he's amazing at tunneling, and it actually works for his limited repertoire. Max Fried is almost the opposite, where he has so many pitches that come out drastically. I mean, his curveball basically you kind of know it when it comes out of the hand, but that actually works to its advantage because it's just like it has so much movement on it. Hitters really can't do much even if it lands in the zone. Same with the sinker, fastball, slider. I'm trying to think if he has any other pitches that he uses often. But he has like so many tricks up his sleeve that, even if you do make contact, which he's trying to do, like you're not really going to get much on it. He'll just constantly locate in the zone. He threw his changeup 14% of the time last year, sinker 13% of the time. So he pretty much, he obviously threw his fastball the most out of any pitches, but like everything else is pretty much equal. And as a hitter, like even if you know what to expect, he's just so good at locating it that like it's hard to get anything on it when it's in the zone.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes him so effective. And I think that's why, people, like I said, point to the low strikeout rates and call him overrated. But I think he does what he does really well, and there's a reason he pitches the way he does.
Fried and Alcantara are like the two pitchers who don't have 9 strikeouts per nine, who I don't care about that. Like I still think they're dominant pitchers, and I mean they went 1-2 in the Cy Young. But yeah, Fried's just so good at locating. He's found the key to success. He doesn't need to strike out batters. He doesn't allow homers. My conspiracy theory going into 2023 is that MLB is deadening the balls more. That's a hot take starting now. They've made the bases bigger. They're trying to get the run game going.
Max Fried's pickoff
Might be in trouble.
Oh, because the new box
because
rules.
They're limiting.
Well,
limiting throws over.
I'm trying to think if we want to do an episode on the new rules and how it would affect individual players. Because I think it would help. It would still, not that it would be beneficial to pitchers with like good pickoffs, but it's like he's not going to be hurt as much as other pickers.
Oh, I agree.
Pitchers that have
pickers.
I
think the throw over rule is kind of dumb. Like I get that we hate watching a pitcher go back, throw it over the first 15 times, but after that second throw over, it's just like it's an automatic go.
But the way I see it, it's like then it's like the runner. And sorry if we to the listener if we divulge here, but it's like the way I see it, it's like the runner still can't get like a super severe lead because they can still throw over the last time.
Yeah.
So it's still
they can't act like he's John Lester. I agree.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the game. Like I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. It's like I'm excited about it, but I'm also worried. But we'll see.
Yeah. So my conspiracy theory, and this is based off of nothing but the fact that they've eliminated the shift and they're making the bases bigger, meaning they want more action.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I'm right, and that's a big if, I'm just guessing here, but if they deaden the balls, that's going to help Fried like so much more as it is, because he already doesn't allow homers, and so if he can have lower exit velocities on those grounders, it just means easier outs. You're not going to have as many if there is a deader ball, that means not as many 110 exit velocity ground balls that get through. Those turn into 97, and the expected batting average of those, you've seen that graph, I'm sure. It's just like the slower it is, in between 95 and 100 changes outcomes. So I think if the ball is deader, and I'm right, Fried is going to really benefit. If not, Fried is still going to be a outstanding pitcher.
I don't think they're going to deaden the ball anymore. I think it's just going to be the ball last year. I just hope they make it consistent. I
mean, the ball was weird last year.
Yeah. You can go into the research. Dr. Meredith Willis has done fantastic work, but I think last year was where they want to see it. They just want to see, increased BABIPs, which obviously the banning of the shift is going to eliminate. So that would be interesting, though. We should talk about doing possibly an episode of the rule changes and how it would affect individual players. But anyway, going to do a quick round, a speed round of the game that we did last time. If you watch the Kyle Wright episode, I put Mitch on the spot by making him guess if it was a stat from Kyle Wright's breakout season last year or Greg Maddox's breakout season. So we're going to do it again with Tom Glavine in his 1991, which was his Cy Young season, or Max Fried in his Cy Young follow-up or runner-up season. So same thing. Make sure you have all your tabs closed. No cheating. All right. So we're going to start off with, I'm just going to do who had a better. I'm just going to do it that way. Who had a better walk per nine?
Fried.
You would be right.
That was a bold guess, I felt, but I just don't remember Fried walking batters.
Yeah, Greg Maddox, his walks per nine, and his Cy Young season was 2.5. Fried's was 1.6. Who had a better ERA plus, Glavine or Fried?
And it's tough. I think it's going to be Glavine, though.
Glavine's 153, Fried to 164 for Fried.
Wow.
There's ones that are obvious. Like if I ask who had more wins, obviously Glavine. Who outperformed their FIP more?
Glavine.
Yeah, by a lot.
I know this might upset some Braves fans, but Glavine was a very good pitcher. But if you compare him with like Greg Maddox, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, at me at minsub4 on Twitter, but if I think if you subtract or if you add Tom Glavine and John Smoltz's B-WAR, baseball reference WAR, I don't think they add up to Greg Maddox's.
Tom Glavine's is 80.7, so I highly doubt that.
Smoltz is what was Maddox's? Or is it? Let's see. You can have me tell me I'm a big dum dum. Okay, Tom Glavine's was 80.
Yeah, he was good. They were a really good trio of pitchers.
I think I was looking at his F4 recently. I think that's.
Okay. I mostly
either way I'm wrong.
Yeah, and John Smoltz is 69. So unless I mean we're approaching like Lefty Grove, Walter Johnson levels.
Tom Glavine has some interesting stats. I was going through his Fangraphs, I think, recently because I was looking up when he left the for the Mets, and I was like, oh, it's very interesting to see. Because I didn't watch him pitch as a Brave except for in 2008 when he was just awful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I remember that. Golly.
But he had some, interesting seasons. But yeah, I'm way off. You can at me and tell me I don't know baseball.
We have our moments. And this was yours. You can be the villain of Twitter. Or at least Braves Twitter. I mean, that's the goal of this podcast, actually. We just want to be the villains of Braves Twitter for a day.
We actually hate Max Fried.
Yeah, Max Fried sucks. Spencer Strider should shave his mustache.
We should trade Max Fried to the Dodgers for
Miguel Vargas.
Miggy Rojas.
Yeah.
Well, Braves need a shortstop,
Oh God. Oh God. No, Gavin Lux. Who says
Gavin
no?
That's a steal for the Braves if they can get Gavin Lux.
Max Fried. And 2 years of Max Fried Dodgers are a smart team, but they're we can send
anyway.
We can send Andrew Friedman to Alex Anthopoulos Island and
you can clip this out of context and then you can post it on Twitter. Just make sure you add us and then and
promote,
subscribe to the podcast. Yeah.
Promotion for us. So as we wrap up here, do an over under that we've totally been doing for every player. Max Fried, I'm gonna do ERA, and I'm gonna set it at 2.8 over under.
Going under. I'm a big believer in Max Fried, I think.
I love Max Fried. I love Max Fried so much. I want to say over, but not by much.
I can see why. I think especially with contact pitchers, one game where just seeing eye singles
Yeah,
can really change the outcome. But I mean, he had a 2.48 ERA this past season.
Yeah,
So,
but again, shifts and the offensive environment was down. I think it's going to go up. By how much we'll see, and I do think he will regress a little bit, but I still think he's going to be good. When I say like above, I'm going to be like it's going to be like a 2.85. I mean,
I think Fried is going to try to get $25 million in arbitration, and he's going to do whatever he can to get there.
We'll see.
That man is determined. He got stepped on in the World Series, and then he threw 6 more innings.
Absolutely insane. We will definitely, however far this takes us, we will definitely do like a 2021 retrospective where we just talk about the 2021 season for like an
probably
hour and a half.
during like a slow period where
during the off
nothing
season
happening.
Yeah.
But for free 2023, I feel like I'm typically a pessimistic person when it comes to pitchers, but I don't know. I watched Fried pitch, and I see a guy who's changed his whole pitching style.
I don't want to make it seem like I don't want to make it seem like I'm pessimistic. I'm just saying like
Cole is super pessimistic on Max Fried.
I would marry him in an instant. I mean, I know he's like dating that soccer player, but like I would marry him in an instant.
He's dating a soccer player too?
Yeah. That's at least what my friend told me. Him and Dansby both. We'll see. I don't know what team she plays for, but it would be interesting to see. But yeah, my song for Max Fried is a little interesting. I chose "Salad Days" by Mac DeMarco. Max. I saw the connection there. And I think, salad days is a term. It's one of my favorite terms to refer to the good times. When you don't have to think about the future and you're just, relishing in the moment. I think we're in that with Max Fried. We're in the salad days. We're in his peak. We'll see where he signs in free agency. Hint, hint. It's not going to be with the Braves, but it's okay. We're in the salad days right now. Let's just appreciate him while he's here.
Watch him tomorrow sign an extension. And we're gonna have to come back and we're gonna have to record
apologize. We're gonna have to apologize.
And apologize because I don't think
we're not worthy. We're not worthy, Alex. I didn't mean to doubt you and your powers.
But yeah, I agree. I agree with Cole. I don't think we're getting Max Fried for much longer, but we have a really good pitcher for this year and next year, and this is the best time. If you haven't appreciated Max Fried yet, I don't know. One, if the only way you haven't is if you're a really new Braves fan, or you might have some weird grudge against Max Fried. But now, these next 2 years is the time to really soak in the Max Fried, because we got a really good pitcher on our hands.
100%. But yeah. Anyway, this has been Braves Cast, the Max Fried episode. Somehow, this is the longest out of all the starting pitchers, which makes sense. He's the ace.
We saved the best for last.
Yeah, he is the ace. But yeah, please subscribe, argue with us on Twitter.
And make fun of me for getting back Tom Glavine plus John Smoltz doesn't equal Greg Maddux, because that was a big swing and a miss.
It's fine. If I had a nickel for every time I put my foot in my mouth, I would be a millionaire. Yeah, so do all that. And we hope to see you next time when we cover the position players, the fun stuff, the stuff that Mitch actually likes to watch.
I just love homers.
That's it.